Good morning and welcome to our INN8 webinar. My name is Arifa Isup and with me is Michael Summerton, Customer Experience Officer for the Standard Lisp as well as the INN8 Invest platform. Welcome, Mike. Thank you so much for being here today to talk about a very interesting topic, Elevate.
Thank you, Arifa. It's so great to be here. And also thank you to everyone online who's joined us today, all of our most important advisors. It's a very unique and exciting group of people to have online. So thank you so much.
Excellent. Mike, tell me a little bit more about this title.
Well, I suppose I made it up myself, but it's really just to bring together a number of different areas within the business that fall into my portfolio. We have the proposition team who lead a lot of the change that we introduce at the investment platform. We also have Chris Cronier's teams on service and operations, both for the LISP and INN8, who report into me. And then we have the lovely colors of INN8 behind us, the marketing team, sit within my portfolio as well. So we did that last year, at the beginning of last year, to bring everything together so that when we come to 2025, for quite a big year of change for us as a business, that we could control things and be as deliberate as possible about all of our changes we introduce to the business.
Great stuff. Mike, I know that this is the first time that we are speaking to our audience about Elevate, and I would really like to start at the beginning. Traditionally, the way we know investments, it has evolved dramatically. We've seen a lot of flows go into the platform space. There has been the introduction of new products like your discretionary fund management, your personal share portfolios, and technology has actually guided a lot of what we do. Unpack that for me a little bit, please.
Absolutely. So, Arifa, in the last 20 years in financial services, in particular in wealth management, we've seen a sea change happen with the introduction of the phase legislation and the Cat 3 license, or LISPs, as they are traditionally known. And LISPs have really grown up in many respects and become what we now call platforms or investment platforms. And today you see almost 2.5 trillion rand worth of retail client monies are sitting on a platform of some description in South Africa.
That much.
And that has happened in 20 years. So it's been a very exponential change, and advisors have responded to that. So they've seen this change, they've grown with it, and at the same time, platform providers have had to respond as well. And so we've got two main cyclical changes happening in the industry. The one is, for any business, you have to go through some level of technology refresh over time. But further to that, with this industry change, with assets migrating to platform, there's this much more increased demand on platform providers to respond to market change, to ensure that clients have a good experience going forward, and that they host those advisor experiences, whether it's compliance or documentation or statements, that's all done in a sort of future fit and ready way.
So how does INN8 address these changes?
So several years ago, the group decided to invest in a new platform, and there were two strategies that we undertook. The one was that Stanlib Asset Management was going to go on a specialization journey and focus solely on becoming the best asset manager in the country. Similarly, the Stanlib LISP platform, and now we're going to talk about the INN8 investment platform, was going to go on a journey of specialization to focus on the administration of client investments and delivering great service for advisors and their clients. So this journey of specialization is really driving that change in our business.
Okay, Mike, then tell me, how does INN8 fit into the larger group of Standard Bank and Liberty?
Yeah. So when I joined the business, we didn't have a brand called INN8. And we came up with this concept of an independent-minded investment platform business that can fit hand in hand with advisors and the way that they do business. And so we came up with this concept of INN8. INN8 is actually a registered trademark of Standard Wealth. So Standard Wealth is our LISP entity that we have the Cat3 license on and that we use to administer all the client investments. And INN8 is effectively owned by Standard Wealth, which is owned by Liberty, which is part of the broader Standard Bank Group.
Sounds like an incestuous relationship. Okay.
It's nice to have Big Brother.
For sure, definitely. And are you able to give us a brief overview of what Elevate is all about? What are we trying to achieve with Elevate?
Yes. So just going back to the market a little bit, the other platform providers have potentially embarked on this journey of re-platforming, and we are with INN8 have been in the market for a couple of years now. We've got several billion rands worth of assets on the platform already, and that proposition is live, and many advisors are using it today. And that is the cornerstone for our retail investments platform business for the next 30 years. Now, our legacy business, which is the Standard LISP, is sitting on dated technology. And so the strategy all along has been to move the administration of those client assets off of the old tech stack and into the new technology stack. And so that's really where we came up with this concept of Elevate. So we're going to make a few changes to client investment administration over the next 12 months. So the first one is, and we've spoken about the brand. So Standard LISP as a brand is going to sort of fade away, and the INN8 brand will be the brand of our specialist investment platform. We've also called this program Elevate because actually it's not a technical migration. Often people hear the word migration and they get a bit uneasy. There's no changes in product terms and conditions. We're not changing legal entities. So there's all these sort of things that we've done in the design of the future platform to make it ready to accept all the client investments that are currently on the Standard LISP. So for example, the pricing is not changing. In fact, you probably have more opportunity at INN8 to aggregate your affairs and get a lower fee. But for all clients, there's no price changes. All the product benefits and features are the same. For example, the classic retirement funds that we use at Stanlib are the same classic retirement funds on INN8. So that structure is exactly the same. So for all intents and purposes, there's a brand change. There's a movement from one bulk account to the other in terms of the units that we hold on behalf of clients, but that's all within Standard Wealth, the LISP entity. And so in a sense, this is not really a migration, and so we've called it Elevate, or the Elevate program, which is what we're going to follow over the next several months to move client investment administration from the Standard LISP into the new platform of INN8.
So what I'm hearing you say is that essentially there isn't a change. We're changing our brand to INN8 investment platform, and the move should be as seamless as possible for our clients with as limited impact to our clients and our advisors.
100%. So for example, and I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions, but we'll dig into some of the detail later. But we're not going to need any clients to sign any pieces of paper and send them back to us. So we've tried to architect this client journey to be as simple as possible.
How are we going to do that? Why do we not need any paperwork?
So clients are already existing clients of the Standard LISP. They already have a Cat3 mandate with us. It's the same license, so we're not changing any licenses, and we're effectively just moving the data from one old database into a new database, and that's through the program of Elevate. And perhaps it's worth just touching on some of the preparation that goes into a change of this magnitude. And what we're looking at in terms of dates is September later this year. This is the first engagement with our audience. But essentially, you're going to have a series of communications over the next few months. There's going to be lots of nice, glossy-looking marketing collateral with frequently asked questions. All of our call center people have been trained up to answer any of your questions that you may have around Elevate. And so the business is really gearing up to make sure that this is as seamless as possible, and we get clients over the line in September. And more importantly, remove any sort of administration burden from the advisor's office.
So, are we expecting advisors to do anything for Elevate? I know it's coming in September. We're starting quite early. It's April. What are advisors expected to do at that time?
So really, I mean, I'm hoping that every advisor can just sit back and do nothing. But it's also important that advisors understand what we're doing, that they are able to respond to their client queries. And I'm sure they, as part of their normal engagements with their clients, will introduce the topic and answer any questions that clients may have. But importantly, we're not asking them to go and collect pieces of paper. Let's just talk a bit about the preparation for a change of this magnitude.
Yes, please.
So we have had a team working on this for 3 years now. There's a whole technical team that is resourced in a test environment. And for example, over the last 6 months, we have run a dry run or dress rehearsal where we actually have people taking a cut of actual customer data in a test environment, moving it through all the various checks and balances, and landing it in a test environment of INN8. And for example, the last one we balanced, I think it was 1.5 billion units worth of clients' assets into INN8 in the test environment, and we were out by 0.5 of a unit. So it's a very precise and accurate process that we've been practicing all along, and following a very rigorous and sort of compliance governed process.
And that's very impressive to be out by that small amount. That's really impressive for a business as large as ours.
Yeah.
So that's well done. Well done to the team and all the things that happen behind the scenes to get to that point.
So that's specifically in preparation for a change that we're doing for a smaller internal audience. So there's about 4,000 clients who currently engage with Liberty, and they're actually moving in May. And they're our first tranche of clients who have been communicated to over the past 6 months. They've been receiving comms, they've been receiving FAQs, and we're going live with them in May. And so actually the September tranche, which we're talking about today, is what the IFA audience is all about. And so that's why we're kicking off these conversations now to start to take advisors along that journey with us in preparation for September.
So you said tranche 1 in May, September tranche 2 for independent financial advisors. How many
Correct.
tranches are there, Mike?
We're looking to have 3 tranches in total. And so that's why the advisors online today were sort of handpicked by our sales team to make sure that we give you a high-touch service for tranche 2. At Stanlib, we have many relationships in the IFA market, and tranche 3 will really be effectively a mop-up of both internal and external monies, and that will likely be in Q1 of 2026.
Okay. Mike, what about my DFM? Can my discretionary fund manager transfer assets as seamlessly as possible? Is the system able to handle a transfer of that magnitude?
100%. So as part of our platform development journey, we are substantially at the end of that. So with the rollout of the two-pot changes towards the end of last year, we also delivered what we call multiple models. So you can now, on INN8 today, an advisor can manage a loose asset alongside a model portfolio or multiple model portfolios within that same single client account. And that was the last sort of really major piece of technology change that we introduced to the environment. And so our sort of re-platforming journey has substantially stopped. Obviously, there's always incremental improvements like enhanced reporting, and I know the instructions tracker has come a long way, and a lot of our error reporting, etc. All of that's going to be continued to be enhanced. But by and large, we are ready to accept, and you asked about model portfolios. So if you're using a DFM today, those models will be available on the INN8 platform prior to September, and we will move those client units out of their Stanlib Lisp version of their model portfolio and land them safely in INN8 in the same model portfolio that they were in before.
So it's safe to say that the funds I have available, as well as DFMs that I have available on Stanlib, will be available on INN8.
Yes.
There isn't any change there. What about product? Are all products available on INN8?
100% they are. So let's just list them. The living annuity product is the same one as at Stanlib. The retirement annuity, preservation funds, there's two new products at INN8, the Endowment and Sinking Fund, which we don't currently host at Standard Lisp. And then there's the investment account and the tax-free savings account. So all of those same products and features that you have today at the Lisp, we'll move client across effectively in the same product licenses. So, for example, in the living annuity, Liberty Group Limited is our underwriter. They are the underwriter on the INN8 side as well.
Are there any products that will be excluded from tranche 2? For example, the Liberty living annuity is hosted or administered by the Standard Bliss. Is that something that will move over?
There are some exceptions on legacy products. Many of them are closed, but there's something called the chartered life annuity. For example, we're going to make some alternative plans for those clients. But in the case of the Liberty living annuity or the bold component of it, that won't be moving in tranche 2, but we do have plans in place for that for Q1 next year.
Okay. So, Mike, I heard you speak about tax-free savings, and traditionally we've not been able to accept transfers in for tax-free savings. What I'm really concerned about is, well, not a concern, what I'd like to ask you is that we know that on the tax-free savings, the fee on Stanlib is a flat 0.2%. Will I enjoy the same fee on INN8 for tax-free savings?
Okay, so you've covered two topics there. The
Yes.
one is tax-free savings account. We're busy building the ability to accept transfers in on an individual basis from external providers. That'll be available Q4 this year. By and large, I guess the frustration has been that we can't currently move the Stanlib version of your tax-free savings account to INN8. And we're hoping to solve that problem by doing it as part of the Elevate process. So those tax-free savings accounts are in scope. So if advisors been waiting for their clients just to bring their TIFSA across, we can do that as part of the Elevate process. So hopefully that takes some of the angst out the system. But for external transfers in, obviously we want you to aggregate all your assets onto INN8. We'll be able to do tax-free savings account transfers from Q4 this year. Individual ones, yeah.
Okay, so I want to.
And then let's go back to the pricing.
Yes.
So the current pricing for the TIFSA at Standard Lisp is a flat 0.2%, and that's been like that since they launched it many years ago. We've applied the same principle that we are going to apply to all other clients who might have been granted a discounted platform fee back in the day. So in 2018, I'm sure you remember some of this pain, we went through a platform reprice where we regularized everyone's platform fees, where we repriced some clients, and then some clients we just left on the old discounted fees. Those are no longer available, just in case anyone was wondering. But what we will do is we've honored those discounted fees from the legacy book, and we will continue to honor those once you move clients to INN8. And so what that means is if you're on a 0.19 fee at Standard Lisp and we move you across to INN8, we will make sure that 0.19 goes with you to the new world. But there's a few caveats.
Yes.
So the one is that account won't count towards any of your aggregation, that we offer lots more aggregation opportunity at INN8. And advisors can do those calculations themselves, or we can help them with it to assess what's better for client. And so you have the opportunity to move to the prevailing platform fee if that's better for client, or you can stay for that account on the old fee. But once you move to the prevailing platform fee, there's no going back. So it's a one-way door for customers. But that gives them the choice and the best of both worlds, essentially.
Mike, I want to talk about aggregation because it is a brilliant tool for advisors, but I don't think that our advisors understand the benefit as much. And we offer two different types of aggregation, which is individual aggregation or pricing and family pricing. Please touch on the nuances for both of those.
So there's two types of automatic aggregation. The one is if you use our offshore platforms, we include your offshore assets as part of your local fee calculation. And then you write on an ID level, each client at INN8, we add up all of their accounts on their ID and calculate their admin fee based on that. So that's done automatically as part of our monthly fee accruals. When it comes to family pricing, we have a process in place whereby advisor can look at their book, They can look at, sometimes advisors say to me, well, we actually look at this family, there's a spouse and some kids, they may have a family trust, and can't we, pull all these entities together into one family? And our answer is absolutely, you should be able to. And there's some principles and rules around what you can and can't include. But essentially, that family pricing is very beneficial for many clients. And also, moving from Standard Lisp to INN8, that family pricing feature is only available on INN8.
So essentially, if our clients move over from Standard Lisp and they've enjoyed a price pause or a discounted fee, technically they could actually be cheaper on INN8 with the family aggregation or the family pricing as well as the individual pricing, and taking into account their offshore assets.
Correct. So we won't be making those changes as part of the Elevate process, but once clients land in the INN8 world, then you can do an analysis to say, well, what's more beneficial for them? So we want to make it as appealing as possible for clients to bring all their external group assets, from all of our competitor platforms, aggregate them onto INN8.
Mike, there's a misconception out there that the INN8 pricing is more expensive than the Standard Lisp.
No, it's not. So in 2018, when we set the pricing up for Standard Lisp, we made sure we did that whole exercise so that when it came to this year, when we move clients, that they are effectively on exactly the same pricing regime at Standard Lisp and INN8. The only difference on INN8 is you have more opportunity for aggregation.
Okay, so we're not more expensive on INN8 at all. And we're not more expensive than the rest of the market either. We're...
I think you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
And I think the principle is that clients should benefit, the more assets that they have, they should be given the opportunity to earn a lower effective fee rate. So I think that's important. So there should be some incentive for clients to aggregate as many assets as possible onto the INN8 investment platform.
So basically, the more assets you have, the lower the fee is. And you have the opportunity of aggregating that across your family so that you can enjoy a lower fee, essentially.
Absolutely.
Great stuff. Mike, tell me about the client experience. I want to know what is expected from the client. So currently on INN8, the client has to accept terms and conditions when they come onto our platform. It's a very straightforward process and very pain-free. All client does is literally click on a link and activate their account, create a password and a login for the website, and they're able to view their clients' statements, or they're able to see their own statements. They're able to pull out any tax certificates if they wanted. They could update their FICA status and by uploading their ID to the system. So whilst they have limited transactions, so they're not allowed to transact, that happens with a financial advisor. What is expected from the client perspective? Are they supposed to log into the system? Are they supposed to create a profile? Are they supposed to accept terms and conditions?
Yeah. Okay, so let's start at the beginning of the process. There is a fair amount of work that our ops teams are going through, which is around cleaning of data. So sometimes that just involves them comparing different databases within our business to make sure that clients' details are the most up to date. Sometimes there's invalid email addresses, and we may reach out to advisor to confirm those. But in between now and September, we're going to be cleaning up some of the data. Our data is pretty clean because we've had quite a focus on it over the last few years, but there's always that exception. Clients change email addresses, etc. So there's a data remediation effort that's going to be happening. And but in terms of client effort, when it comes to the actual migration weekend in September later this year, the effort from the client is really, one, hopefully they've read our emails and FAQs that are going to be coming out over the next few months, and so that they feel prepared for this change. But two, adopting a digital way of doing business, and more importantly, giving clients a primary place where they go to find all of their important documents. So remember, at INN8, we don't send PDFs attached to emails. It doesn't matter if they're password protected or not. We don't send personal information around on email. What we do is we ask clients to log into the secure portal. And so for some clients, this might be a change, but effectively the effort we're asking from clients after the migration week, after the Elevate weekend happens, is for them to create their username off the back of a welcome email from us and log into their account. So they don't need to do that, because as soon as we complete the Elevate process, advisors will have access to all their customer details, regardless of whether they create a username or not. But really, from a communication perspective, we'd really like clients to start to adopt digital and to know where their quarterly statements will be stored, to know where to go to look for their tax certificates. And if they really get lost, they can certainly phone us. But that's all we're asking from clients post Elevate is create your username and password and just log in and see your account.
Okay. Mike, will clients go through more than, or through the Elevate process more than once? Assume a client has 4 investments and one of it is not supported by INN8. Will they go through the process more than once?
Yeah. So by and large, most clients don't have any sort of excluded products. So for the most part, we try to move clients in one tranche. So if you've got a living annuity and an RA and a tax-free savings account, we'll move you in tranche 2 if your advisor is in scope for that tranche. And the principle is, let's not make clients swivel chair between Standard BLISP and INN8. So that's the principle that we're approaching. There might be the occasional exception with clients who have maybe an old closed product and we have to make a plan for them. But certainly that's the principle. Unfortunately, we can't do this for advisors. So advisors are currently swivel chairing. So what I'm trying to do is encourage advisors to try get as many of their clients, because remember, it's going to come down to data remediation. So let's try get as many of your clients in scope for tranche 2 as possible, and we basically do almost your whole book in one swoop.
Will advisors need to? Okay, let me just think about how I want to say
question.
this. Yes. Will the history of existing investments on the Standard BLISP be available on INN8? Do advisors need to go from one system to another system to essentially get history?
So for this tax year, there will be advisors will continue to have access to the Standard BLISP until such time as it's decommissioned. And that will happen once all clients have been removed from LISP. And so that's probably back end of 2026. Until that time, you will have access to tax certificates, statements, etc., and historical transaction histories. At INN8, you're effectively building a new transaction history. So it's going to look like a transfer. So we're not moving every transactional line item from the list, because some of them go back 15, 20 years. We're not moving all that transactional history into the INN8 world. What we will do as part of, there's rules and compliance and governance around all this, is that we move that information to a special archive, and as the access is required to that, we will give access to that on a request basis, and to our internal people to satisfy any advisor or client request. The one pain point that we've already come up with a solution for is really around your performance track record. So it's important to us that if you've been with the LISP for 10 years, we want to be able to make sure you carry with you your internal rate of return and your market value movements. And so as part of Elevate, advisors will be able to request and have produced for them, we call it an investment performance report, which is just a one-pager with a market value change of that account over time, but more importantly, your internal rates of return over various periods, where we're effectively joining up the LISP transaction record with that of INN8. And so whether you're looking at a month on INN8 or 10 years plus a month, that will look quite seamless for advisor.
So you'll still have access to it until such time that the LISP is entirely decommissioned, and then we'll keep those records in an archive, and if you need to request it, you can request it to us. Will clients be out of the market while we're elevating? Let's say we choose the week of September 24th, that long weekend.
So there's a few things that will happen in the weeks and days leading up to when we process this transfer of data and units from Standard Bliss to INN8. The one thing is we're going to ask advisors to bring forward any sort of withdrawals or switches or changes to those accounts to be done sort of well in advance of the September cutoff. In the 7 days leading up to the Elevate weekend in September, we're going to ask advisors not to switch or make any static detail changes or process any withdrawals, because we'd really like that data to be as static as possible. Clients won't be effectively out the market because it's just a unit balance that we're moving. We're not redeeming, we're not withdrawing any investments. It's a unit balance move from one bulk account in the name of Standard Wealth Nominees to another bulk account.
Called INN8.
Yes, but same legal entity. And that work actually happens at the fund manager. So we'll send an instruction. Those units will be changed from one bulk account to another at each of the underlying fund managers. But clients remain in the market. They remain in those units that they're invested in, and their asset allocation remains exactly the same. And effectively on the Monday or Tuesday, as soon as we activate those accounts, advisors are able to transact and withdraw and switch and do whatever they need to do. So it's really that 1 week of leading up to the Elevate weekend is where we're just going to ask for sort of a lockdown around data, so a freeze period, if you like.
And Mike, is there a CGT impact, a capital gains tax impact for this transfer or elevation?
No, there's no CGT impact in terms of the unit move from one bulk account to another.
And clients, or let me rather ask it this way: will we be supporting advisors and giving them a list of clients that are impacted or that we feel would benefit from? Well, all clients are going to benefit from Elevate essentially, but how are we communicating that information to advisors? Do we sit with them and collaborate? And
so let's talk a bit about our communication strategy. Really, this is the first kickoff session where we're talking about sort of high-level principles and really what's going to be happening. We've actually sent people to the UK to similar companies who have done large migrations like this and learned from them. And one of the things that they say is you've got to talk to clients and you've got to talk to them at least 3 times. Okay. And so there will be 3 different communications, and each communication is email to advisor, email to client, and links to frequently asked questions. And it's generally done 3 months before, 2 months before, and 1 month before. And so in that way, we're introducing the concepts, we're talking a bit about INN8, and then we're giving all the details around what's going to be happening during that Elevate weekend. The frequently asked questions is a document that will be very useful for advisors to work through. And if they've got any questions, obviously come back to us and ask them. But that engagement strategy and what we've noticed with the internal tranche that's going to be happening in May is that there's a lot of engagement up front. And then as the second email goes and the third email goes, it's like,
dies down.
The noise dies down. And so it's really important that we give advisors and clients time to sort of digest the changes, assess what's going to happen. Almost all the advisors on the call today are currently using INN8, or we really hope they will use INN8 in the future. And so if you haven't processed a transaction or 2 or have 1 or 2 clients, then I think my recommendation is go and ask your specialist investment consultant, go for the demos, do the onboarding, so that by the time September rolls around, you feel very comfortable with the system. But our communication strategy is absolutely readying the advisor for this change, making sure all of their questions are answered, and then that 3-step communication. So communication 1, communication 2, communication 3, and all of this is going to start to kick off from the back end of July.
Okay, so we're going to let advisors know about the communication before we obviously communicate to their clients.
Correct. We're also going to give them a secure way to access their list of clients that are in scope for September's tranche. And so that'll be delivered via a secure portal in an Excel sheet that's protected with a password so that they can see exactly who those clients are that will be in scope for Elevate.
Okay. I want to go back to something you said earlier on about advisors that have not yet used INN8. And you said you're encouraging them to get onto INN8 as soon as possible. What if that doesn't happen for whatever reason? Then what? Do their clients not go?
So there's I guess, a qualifying condition that if you have not yet activated your advisor account for September, then we don't want to just sort of issue with the username and password and move your clients. I think that's a bit rough. So we're trying to keep tranche 2 as a really high touch, lots of communication, making sure advisors are as prepared as possible. But if you have not yet activated your advisor account and gone in to see and been through the onboarding journey, then we're going to move you to tranche 3, which will happen in Q1. And so to give you a sense of the numbers, we probably have 1,000 advisors in scope for tranche 2 in September, and for tranche 3 in Q1 next year, there's probably upwards of 3,500, 4,000 advisors in scope for that. And so it's a substantially bigger tranche, and so tranche 2 is the one to be in.
Okay, so ideally, the advisors on this call should preferably try and get all of their clients over the line in tranche 2 because it's going to be a high touch tranche.
Absolutely.
Tell me about personal share portfolios not currently offered on the INN8 platform in scope for tranche 2.
Share portfolios are not in scope for tranche 2, and they will remain behind for now. And we will be making an alternate plan to make sure that advisors that make use of PSPs can continue to transact on those products, as well as add new business next year. So that's sort of a parallel plan happening alongside Elevate.
Mike, will there come a time when we say, stop, no new business on StandLib? We're not accepting any more new cases or new clients for that matter. You probably can add to existing client investments, but we're not taking on any new business on this.
Look, we don't want to make our challenge worse. And so let me use this current tranche that's going live in May as an example, which is an internal tranche. Those advisors, we've asked them effectively from the end of this month to not put on any new clients at StandLib Lisp. They can certainly top up and switch and withdraw, etc., on clients of theirs that perhaps aren't in scope for tranche 1. But going forward, all of their new business will be placed on INN8. And so we will follow the same approach for tranche 2, that a month before that tranche, we'll ask advisor, please no longer add new clients to the StandLib Lisp, and consider for each new client that you add to load them on INN8.
Okay. And so from a data remediation perspective, and you touched on it a little bit, does it make sense for advisors to go through their current book and see if we have an incorrect email address, as an example?
We have noticed, and again, it's been very instructive being able to do this internal tranche leading up to May. We've learned several lessons. For example, clients don't update their email addresses. And so as part of the communications process, we've been getting all those bounced emails and gone and followed up with advisor and or client to make sure that we have the right details on record. It's really the important ones that make the most difference, so cell phone number, email address, etc. And that's going to make sure that the clients have the sort of smoothest journey possible into INN8.
Okay, and if an advisor wanted to start the Elevate process before Elevation comes in September, could he? Could he not?
So we're not currently doing bulk book transfers. I guess our 2025 answer to book transfers is the Elevate process. But we can process individual, and we have been processing individual transfers from StandLib Lisp into INN8 on a client-by-client basis, as advisors have those annual reviews with them and feel that INN8's the right solution for them, that we process a transfer. And it's the same sort of unit transfer that you would do to transfer between platforms.
Okay. Mike, currently on StandLib, we make a living annuity payment on the 20th, or the process starts on the 20th. On INN8, the process starts on the 25th. Okay. How are we accommodating for that for Elevate?
So funnily enough, when we built INN8, we actually made our living annuity payment date the same as Standard Lisp. And then Standard Lisp have sort of steadily made theirs a bit earlier and earlier. So we will be aligning with the Lisp over the next couple of months. So by the time September comes around, INN8 will pay on their living annuity on the same date, possibly earlier depending on public holidays, as Standard Lisp. So at the moment, Standard Lisp begin their process around about the 20th. Usually those payments are made on the 22nd or 23rd, and clients see their money on the 24th. If there's a public holiday on the Friday, sometimes there's a bit of angst, and the money only arrives on the Monday or Tuesday. Certainly in the INN8 world, the system factors in those public holidays, and so we typically pay in advance of those holidays at INN8. But certainly from a principal perspective, by September, we will be paying the living annuities on or before the same date that the Lisp currently pays on. So there won't be any change for clients.
Okay, so nothing to worry about from that perspective.
100%.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about the reporting on INN8 and how that differs to what Stand-up offers.
Are we talking about client reporting? Or?
Advisor reporting, essentially.
So we're well aware that our book reports on INN8 could do with some work. And there's some work in the next month or two to deliver and make those sort of CSV and Excel files a little bit more pleasing to the eye and more familiar. So advisors will be familiar with a format that the Lisp uses, and we're going to make those look a lot nicer. But certainly going forward, our data feed capabilities are the same or better than Standard Lisp. And so if you make use of a third-party data aggregator, we can turn on those data feeds for you on request and sort of deposit that client information securely wherever your third-party aggregator makes use of them. And then I think from a digital readiness perspective, I think where data is going with the introduction of artificial intelligence, as I chat to advisors, everyone's got a different flavor of how they want to do things. And so I think where we're going to move to as a platform, and certainly where we've invested from a data perspective, is on a data capability that advisors can increasingly start to sort of customize for themselves. And we can only do that on INN8. We're not able to do that at the Lisp. The Lisp data is quite static in a database somewhere, and it's not easily accessible. And so you end up at the Lisp with sort of pre-formatted static reports, whereas at INN8, you're going to increasingly have access to your customer data so that you can do with it what you need to.
I want to talk about a very interesting topic. We haven't touched on this at all from a servicing perspective. Okay. Currently, we have what we call key account managers on the INN8 side. Advisors on this call are supported by a specialist investment consultant as well as an account manager, and then they have a dedicated key account manager. What happens on the INN8 side? Does that continue for these clients that come over from stand-up?
Correct. So that service model, whoever you're talking to today, you will continue talking to the same, effectively the same team members. In some places, there will be new faces on the INN8 side, but by and large, you should still have that same familiar touch point in terms of the relationship management with the investment platform business. We've certainly invested in our service capabilities, and so it's not just the people who answer your emails and the phones. It's also on the incident management at the back of that. So if something goes wrong in the INN8 world, we have a whole team of people who analyze the incident, they respond quickly, and then you get feedback back, and where necessary, your clients are corrected, etc. And we get lots of feedback internally and detail around things that are going wrong or right, and then that gets fed back into the INN8 service world. And so that's, I guess, in addition to your key account manager, you have this sort of incident management team at the back as well.
Will I retain the same investment number as I have on stand-up? How will I differentiate?
So clients will get a new account number as they elevate to INN8, but we will bring across that reference, that standard Lisp account number reference, so that it's easily visible on certain documents where advisors need to map back to historical documents from the Lisp. So I know that's going to be very important as you sort of trying to cover 2 tax years, etc. We'll make sure that that reference is available for you, but you do have a new account number in the INN8 world.
Okay. And is it worthwhile for an advisor to pull out a book report on Stanlib already before that goes over? So he's got he's keeping a record of what those investments are, or it will be clearly visible on the INN8 website for him?
Certainly, you can pull a book report today. I think as we move through the process, there are going to be any number of very detailed questions that advisors may have. And that might be from their in-scope client list that will be communicated to them in a couple months' time. It might be, who do I phone? There's all these sort of questions that are going to come up, and that's all contained in the frequently asked questions document. In addition to that, our key account managers have been trained around the Elevate process. Like I said, this internal tranche that's happening in May has been very useful because we've been able to upskill all the people who will be answering these questions, making sure advisors get relevant, up-to-date, and correct information first time around. And so that's all going to feed into and support the Elevate process through to September. So this is not one and done. This is just the first engagement. But that FAQ document is very valuable, and any additional engagements that you see come up, please feel free to join them, ask your questions. The specialist investment consultants will also be a point of call for their advisor. They're the primary relationship management person, and so that's this whole service model works together to support the advisor.
Will we give advisors the chance to see the communication that we're sending out to our clients? Will we give them an actual email that says, this is your client communication that's going out?
100%. So the principle is advisors always get something that we're going to send to their clients in the future first. So there's an advisor com, then it's an advisor receives the client com, and then only a day or two later, the clients actually receive their com. So very important that advisors get to sort of own and feel empowered with that communication journey.
Okay. I'd like to remind the audience to please post questions in the Q&A so that we can get to those shortly. Mike, let's just say bottom line now. Why bother? Why do I need to do this?
I think that it is important for advisors to constantly ask, are they being as efficient as possible? And from an INN8 perspective, from an investment platform, we want to work with advisors and work in the way that they do business. So that's where the whole concept of the INN8 platform came from, is work hand in glove, be advisor inspired. And so maybe we don't always get it right, but certainly advisors stay at the center of our universe. By moving off a legacy technology stack, we are way more able to respond to market changes. There's always going to be regulatory impacts. And by moving digital, by having our data more accessible, by moving clients to this new platform, by moving advisors to this new platform, we can continue to enhance their experiences in a digital manner. You also unlock a whole lot of future capabilities. So, for example, we have a surveillance tool on the INN8 website, which we can look at from the back end, and we can see where pages are loading slowly, reports aren't being generated, advisors are maybe finding an error message, and all of that data is accessible by our internal teams. We weren't able to do that at Standard Lisp. And so by moving to digital, you create all these future opportunities to get operational efficiencies. I know there's going to be another platform price war at some point. We need to be able to respond to that and respond to it profitably. And so this change, while 2025 might be a bump in the road for some advisors, because it means a little bit of awkward change and adopting a different way of working. What we have seen, certainly with advisors who fully adopted INN8 platform, is they went from 2 hours of work to 20 minutes of work in terms of the administration of investments and looking after their client affairs. And so I think if you see it from an advisor's perspective and say, well, how can I do less of the low value activity and more of the client value activity? Then that is the incentive to move to INN8 and sort of adopt this new digital way of doing things.
That makes sense. Mike, we haven't spoken about this at all, so I really want to touch on this because I'm sure our audience is thinking about it. On the INN8 side, we have what we call a product cash account. It is a really handy tool for advisors, and the benefit to them is that transactions don't get held up because we pay fees out of there, and we don't have to delay withdrawal, for example, while we're paying fees.
Yeah.
At Stanlib, I don't have that. How is my client impacted by that? What difference does it make to their investment?
Yeah. So if you look at it on an annual basis, so currently we hold, on INN8, we hold 2% of each client's account in a product cash account. Now, the benefit of that is that from an income distribution perspective, each unit trust delivers cash on a monthly, quarterly, annual, semi-annual basis. At an individual client account level, advisors are able to tell us if they want to change the way that those cash income distributions are treated. So, for example, at the default setting, as you load a new client, that cash is automatically reinvested into the fund that it came from. You can ask us to make it remain behind in cash, potentially to pay withdrawals, or you can invest it in a different fund. And so there's a number of options which the product cash account creates on INN8 that you don't really have at Standard Lisp. In addition to that, you spoke about liquidity. So advisors are able to switch to cash if they want to get clients' money out the market in anticipation of a large withdrawal. They don't have to do the withdrawal straight off the platform. So there's a number of benefits of having this product cash account. When it comes to fee redemptions, at the moment at Standard Lisp, we take a calculation at the end of the month. We apply the platform fee for however many days we're in that particular month, and we pay the fee to the platform and advice fees for that matter. We pay advice fees to advisors by redeeming units from the market. So we sell generally proportionately, or you can pick a preferred fund, but we sell underlying assets, and then we fund that payment to platform or to advisor. On INN8, that concept is effectively the same, except you have the product cash account in the middle. So at the moment, the product cash account is set at 2%. This year, we will get the opportunity to be able to amend that 2%. If perhaps you've got a really large client and you want to keep less in cash, we'll be able to do that. But for now, it's at 2%. And for the year's transactions, as those fees are calculated, accrued, and paid over to advisor, platform, DFM, you name it, you don't have to go and redeem assets in the market. And so, for example, for some clients are keeping income distributions in that product cash account. They are not selling underlying units, and they're actually minimizing their CGT liability on some products. We also have a process from time to time, as that 2% drops lower and lower, where we go and top that cash up by selling assets in the market. So in many respects, it's effectively the same process over on an annual basis of selling assets to pay fees. At INN8, you have the additional optionality of using the product cash account in a proactive manner to sort of manage your client behavior, your withdrawals, and that sort of thing. So I think it's a really great benefit that the INN8 platform has.
So I once had an advisor that had money sitting in the cash account, had preempted the withdrawal for the client, and literally went onto the system in 4 steps, captured that withdrawal, and the money was in the client's bank account the next day because he banked with Standard Bank. So it's such an efficient process. It's one of my favorite features on the INN8 platform.
Fantastic.
To be honest. I'm going to jump to
You can also trade into the market really quickly.
That's it.
So if you want to process a trade into a particular unit trust, and you get that instruction in before 1 p.m., and that cash is in the product cash account, you'll get the same day's price on that unit trust.
I'm going to jump to some audience questions.
Sure.
Okay, so here's an interesting, it's more a comment, and I suppose this is exactly why we're moving towards INN8. Okay, all great and well to request updated mobile and email addresses for clients, But to update that info with standard Lisp via paperwork is a nightmare. Okay. And I know that if I need to update an email address on INN8, all I have to do is log in, choose the client profile, and depending on how fast I type, I can do that email address in 30 seconds.
Real time.
Real time.
Yeah.
So that's quite interesting.
So I guess what advisor's asking though is that does he need to update all of his client details? No, you don't.
Just
So we also have it does cost us a little bit of money, but we have a way to update certain static details for clients in terms of relevance and accuracy by integrating with third-party databases. And so what I've found is, and let's say for every 10 clients that an advisor has, we're able to update, well, let's say 5 or 6 are accurate, we're able to update 2 out of 10 by engaging with this third-party database without actually needing to contact client or advisor, for example, street addresses and that sort of thing. And then only the 1 out of 10 clients we actually need to go out to advisor to ask for updated details. So we're really hoping that that burden to update static data is as light as possible on the advisor.
okay. So we did touch on this a little bit, but it's probably not clear. So let's rehash this. Will Elevate transfers be before income and regular withdrawals or after?
Okay. So what we're following, the process we're following for the May exercise, and I guess for the IFA community, yes, we are using our internal clients as a little bit of a guinea pig or proof of concept. But what we're doing for May is we are paying our living annuitants and regular withdrawals earlier in the month on standard Lisp, and then doing the transfer of the units mid-month, and effectively you've already been paid for May, and then the next payment will be at the regular date in June. So that's how we're going to manage for May, and that'll be part of the communications as well. We'll lay out exactly which days and when certain transactions are going to be happening.
Okay, so we'll communicate that so advisors are fully aware of what those dates are.
Assuming it goes really well for May, we will apply the similar approach in September. So in all likelihood, pay, for example, living annuities earlier in the month before the transfer, do the transfer, and then the next living annuity will be paid in October.
Okay, so there seems to be quite a few questions around commission payments. And so I'm just going to ask, so will commissions be paid on the old Stanlib number, or will it be paid on the new INN8 investment number?
Sure, that's a very detailed question.
It is quite detailed.
So that's a perfect example. Is we want to work with advisor to make sure it works for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess advisors who've never used Standard Lisp and sign up to INN8 get a commission number. I'm assuming we're going to migrate to the same, but let me confirm that one. I don't want to give the incorrect information.
Yes, let's get back to our audience on that. That would be great. So someone's saying, so INN8 is a very tech-savvy platform. Thank you. And some of my clients are on Standard because of the fact that they are not as technically inclined. Will migrated clients be onboarded onto INN8?
Will migrated clients?
Will clients that move over from Stanlib be taught how to use the INN8 platform?
Okay. So remember that all documents that client has access to on the INN8 digital portal, the client version, I was client number 1, so I know it very well, are accessible by their advisor. So any quarterly statements, tax certificates, and I know that advisors back office currently, clients rely on them for their information, particularly the more elderly clients. And we're going to have a process to help those clients move to the new world. Remember, they don't need to log in or accept any terms and conditions. Their profile will be moved, and advisor will have access to all those same documents within the INN8 world. And so if you're currently sending Stanlib quarterly statements to your client or tax certificates, you'll be able to access them in the INN8 platform as well, and print them out or send them to client however they feel best.
So, no real change from the current practice. If advisors are sending out statements to their clients, they still have the opportunity of continuing that process. It's not going to be a train smash in any way. There will be a lot of tech savvy clients that will want to have access to their information all the time. And the great thing about the INN8 platform is that it is available 24/7.
Correct.
Okay, Mike, we have another question regarding Section 14 transfers and the renewals of commission.
Mhm.
So, our current process at INN8 is that if the source of funds is not via a life company, we do not have to renew that commission, or the advisor does not have to renew the commission.
Correct.
That's not the case with Stanlip. So, great benefit to our advisors on INN8. The question is, will the renewal of Section 14 fee fall away completely?
I don't know what the legislation holds, but we've tried to make that process as easy as possible. So where possible, we don't ask you to renew your fees, but where renewals do apply, it's effectively a very quick journey on the web per client. And so I think that rather than filling out a form and sending it to our back office, you get to manage that, and you're empowered as the advisor to own your client relationships. Just remember that sometimes the information is not always clear from the paperwork that we receive when the transfer is done. It might have been done a long time ago. And so if advisors feel that actually we've got the call wrong here and it should be underwritten, or it wasn't before, whatever, get hold of us. We'll investigate it and try and make your life a bit easier.
Thank you so much, Mike. We've come to the end of our webinar. I think that our audience has given us a lot to think about as well. There's lots of questions, and we will get to all of them. We'll compile, as you have said, the FAQ, which we've already started working on. But I'd like to thank the audience for joining us. And as usual, if there's anything that you need to know, please reach out to your specialist investment consultant. There's one message that we leave you with. It's get into tranche 2. That's your high touch.
INN8 is a registered trademark of Stanlib Wealth Management Pty Limited, an authorized financial services provider.